Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever closed a book or watched the credits roll on a series finale and suddenly felt this very real, actual physical weight just settle right into your chest? It feels incredibly strange, doesn't it? You walk around for days feeling a genuine sense of loss, exactly like you've just lost a close, real-life friend. Well, today in this explainer, we're going to unpack the hidden architecture of that heavy, isolating feeling.
I mean, seriously, have you ever mourned someone who never even existed? We often brush this kind of feeling off, right? We tell ourselves to just snap out of it, that it's just a story, or we even feel a little embarrassed that we're grieving for made-up characters. But I want to validate that experience for you right now. Your brain is not overreacting. It's not glitching out. Actually, what you are experiencing is a highly sophisticated form of emotional processing. You aren't just living in your head. Your brain is actively doing something fascinating.
Part 1, Meet Julia, Fictional Mourning.
To really wrap our heads around how this works, let's look at a case study. We'll call her Julia. Now, Julia is highly capable. She works, she pays her bills, she has friends, the whole shebang. But right after finishing a long beloved book series, she gets hit with a massive bout of intense fictional mourning. And for Julia, this grief feels so much heavier and somehow way more profound than a lot of the stuff she deals with in her actual day-to-day life. To understand why it hits her so hard, you've got to understand her baseline. Julia walks through her daily life harboring what she describes as a vague, persistent wrongness. It's this quiet, nagging feeling that she is somehow cut off from the emotional frequency that everyone else in the world just seems to tune into effortlessly. She feels kind of like an outsider looking in on humanity's emotional baseline. But when she reads, that wrongness totally disappears.
Part 2, Inside Julia's Brain, the Default Mode Network.
To figure out why that wrongness just vanishes in fiction, we need to pivot from psychology over to neuroscience. We need to look under the hood at the exact biological engine of her imagination, the default mode network. So the crucial point is that this is the part of your brain that lights up specifically when you are not focused on the outside world. It is the literal engine generating your memories, your daydreams, your fears, and your fantasies. Now, for most people, this network just activates occasionally, like when you're staring out a window on a train. But for Julia, this network doesn't just pop on every now and then. It becomes her absolute preferred mental setting. And that highly active default mode network ties directly into a psychological personality trait known as high absorption. So when Julia engages with a story, she isn't just passively sitting on her couch observing the plot unfold. Because of her high absorption, she is literally downloading the emotional data of those fictional characters straight into her own nervous system. She's treating their joys and their traumas exactly as if they were her very own. And this brilliantly illustrates what we call high perceptual sensitivity. Julia's brain essentially lacks a standard emotional spam filter for social and emotional cues. She basically walks through the world operating as a human emotional Wi-Fi router. She doesn't just observe feelings from a distance, she completely absorbs them. So when a stranger's story, even a totally fictional one, makes her chest tighten up, it's because her highly sensitive nervous system caught that emotional connection way before her logical, verbal brain even had a chance to process it. Because of this really specific neurological wiring, we arrive at a truly fascinating truth. The brain doesn't reliably distinguish between a real threat and a fictional one. And guess what? It also doesn't distinguish between a real friend and a fictional one. It just knows that a connection has been made. And to the brain, that connection is incredibly valuable. So Julia's mind treats the fictional connection as entirely 100% real. Her grief is real because the biological connection she made was real.
Part 3, The Psychology of Safety, Fiction as Safety Signals.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is asking why her mind compulsively seeks out these fictional worlds in the first place. Like, why does her nervous system actually require the support of stories to feel regulated? Well, it comes down to a stark contrast between how Julia experiences reality versus fiction. To Julia, the real world often feels thin, unpredictable, and just loud. Real intimacy is terrifying for her because it requires sitting with this massive uncertainty. But her fictional world, that offers predictable emotional resolution. It acts as a series of safety signals. A book might be sad, sure, but it never disappoints her in the unpredictable, chaotic way that real life so often does. You can always rewind a movie or reread a chapter to get that perfect emotional resolution. Let's see how this builds into a fascinating adaptation called traumatic intelligence. For a lot of people who grew up in unpredictable environments, their minds adapted by learning that fictional worlds were literally the safest possible exit doors. Julia uses these predictable fictional worlds as a biological safety signal. Maybe her childhood home ignored her emotional needs, or her environment was just chaotic.
So her intelligence told her to seek out a highly structured, emotionally safe environment, a story. In this way, the story becomes a true sanctuary. It becomes a room where Julia's feelings can finally echo right back to her. When she's fully immersed in this fictional world, experiencing that deep, heavy weight, she finally feels seen. She feels witnessed. The characters on the page are validating her internal emotional landscape in a way her real life and her childhood simply never allowed her to experience.
Part 4. The resolution. Navigating high absorption responses.
So what do we actually do when this heavy weight hits hard? If you've ever been called too sensitive because you cried over a character's death for 3 days straight, I really want you to try this technique. It's called affect labeling. It's incredibly simple, but it's deeply rooted in neuroscience. Step 1, just notice that heavy weight. Step 2, instead of feeling ashamed about it, simply say out loud to yourself, I'm having a high absorption response right now. And step 3 is what actually happens in your brain. By naming the response, you actively shift blood flow and electrical activity safely away from your brain's fear center and push it right back into your logical, reasoning mind. You know the saying, you name it to tame it. Because the absolutely most important takeaway from this explainer is this. You need to reframe this entire experience. Feeling this heavily and mourning fictional worlds this deeply absolutely does not mean you are broken. It doesn't mean you're just too sensitive or somehow disconnected from reality. Honestly, it's undeniable proof of your existential depth. It is proof of your profound search for meaning in a world that so often feels surface level. You just happen to have a mind that takes the question, what even is this world, very, very seriously. Which brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with today. Was there a specific book or show that left a weight on you that never truly went away? I want you to really think about that. You aren't alone in feeling that lingering ghost of a fictional world. Embrace that depth. Recognize it as a brilliant safety signal your mind created. And please never apologize for being an emotional Wi-Fi router in a world that desperately needs connection. Take care of your beautiful, complicated mind.